I just watched the rental clip again. It never gets boring, man.
It's so good.
Oh my
Brandon!
god.
You have no idea how happy I was to realize that Replay username hadn't been taken yet. So I'm like, I'm stealing it. I'm getting a clip of Gotcha's face from that clip. I am working with it. It was great.
I like it.
That's fantastic.
All right. So, two things to mention very quickly. First of all, hi, welcome to Hammer. This is episode 10. Somehow we made it to double freaking digits. I think
Good
it's
work,
mostly
everybody.
because we've just had a whole bunch of really big names in the podcast, spent 45 minutes talking about nothing, then finally got to Siege. So it's almost like we lure people in with, hey, we have this guy on, and then we're going to turn into a discount two-man Joe Rogan experience where we just talk about the guest and not any particular topic.
You ever seen like gorillas go fight? Jimmy, can you bring that up? Can we watch like 12 minutes of gorilla fighting?
We'll talk about it with a guest who has nothing to do with gorilla
You ever inject testosterone directly into your eyeballs? I hear it's really good for getting the cryotherapy working. Jimmy, can you pull up 17 minutes of men injecting testosterone into their eyeballs?
Brutal.
I don't know when to segue out. We've gone so far, I can't segue back out of this now. There isn't a transition that works. Jesus. Okay, so that's the first thing. We have this guy. We found him on the streets in Montreal. He wasn't really doing anything back when we saw him the first time. His name's Nick. Nick, could you do us a favor and explain why you have any significance to the Siege community in any aspect?
It's because I'm bald.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And like, if you think about it, like, who's the biggest individual you can think of? It's probably Matt Andrews, and he's bald. Right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
That I have the same significance basically. So I was picked up by him in a bathroom. That sounds really. First
Keep going. Every story has a weird ending.
I was washing my hands, and he goes, "Do you want to do a stage interview?" He's like, "You're." Checks my jersey. You're Pengu, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm Pengu. And he's like, "You want to do an interview like in like 30 minutes between the games?" I'm like, sure. But my mind was like, please say no. And I had 30 minutes to prep a topic, and I just sat there like furiously, like shaking and nervous. And I walked up on there, and the first thing I did, I just slammed my arm like this on my desk, and the entire like 10 minutes, I talked like this. Like my arm was middle of the table between Punchy Stick and Matt Andrews, and I never moved my arm. Looking back, everyone's like, "Why is your arm there?" I'm like, I don't know. I was just nervous, man. But
just striking a pose. Just, yeah, I was hey, what's going on?
I was like, this is my space. But it really pushed me into the scene, and I would have probably never been a front runner, so to speak, as a public image if I wasn't pushed into the first interview. Because
if Matt Andrews didn't proposition you in a bathroom, yes,
exactly.
Yeah,
that's like a lot of that goes to Matt. Like I would have been
accidentally ruin Matt Andrews' reputation with ESL by talking like this. I don't want to make him lose his job because he's like, yeah, I picked up Pengu in a bathroom and threw him on stage for a minute.
Dude, the best part is, so so Matt and I believe were some of the last people arriving at the airport. So we got the shuttles, myself, and I get picked up by this guy who's an ESL employee, I guess, or whatever the case might have been back then. I had no idea who he was. He didn't know who I was. And we pick up this elder-looking guy. I thought he was like a tech crew member. Maybe he was like supervising a younger guy. And we talked for like 30 minutes, the entire taxi drive. And then I go, "Oh, what's your name?" He's like, "Oh, I'm Matt Andrews, stage host." And I was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh my word!
I thought he was gonna work on like the tech side of things or whatever, because I was like,
back then he wasn't totally bald. Like I totally get how you would have thought he was older because he had scruff on the back.
Yeah, exactly. He looked like he was way older than he was, and now that he's like bald, he looks great either way. But he looks like younger nowadays, I would say by far. And I was really blown away because I thought esports was a young people thing, and I was really impressed by him being so into it. And I was like, oh no, it's gonna be terrible. Like he's not gonna know what esports is. Like what are video games? He nailed it. He completely nailed it. He was so good at it, and obviously he was for many years to come. And hopefully we'll see more of him in the future.
Yeah,
I hope we do too. If only if it'll get everyone on Reddit to stop saying, "Where is Matt Andrews? Where is my postman?" Like. It's okay.
And then harass all the non-Matt Andrews people on stage. They're like, "You're not Matt Andrews."
As far as I could tell, Anna Prosser for Invite 2020 didn't get any backlash.
That's a good point.
That's a good point.
So I mean, I didn't see anything, and I was also there. I wasn't able to check Reddit all the time, but it seemed like it was pretty well received. So
I think it's just because she was like the gender difference. I think it was like she was like the female Matt Andrews, like the first of its kind, whereas Golden Boy was kind of like the people wanted him to be managers, basically, right? And they were like, "Oh, you're not supposed to be here." And obviously, very, very unfortunate. There's a famous clip and story with Fabian and myself and Golden Boy that kind of it helped people dislike him basically because he made a mistake, which everyone does.
Right.
And it
helped to enhance his character.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So
because we all know that everything in CG sports is like pro wrestling. It's all scripted out, and then no one actually has any real beef. It's all theater, right?
I have
here.
Oh no,
he has here.
I have the 2020 script.
Oh, that's a good
okay.
I
You
need a few
fuckers,
slices.
you fuckers aren't ready for K9's Revenge Tour. I can tell you that right now. Okay.
Of all the people that come back, oh god,
It's K9 and Gotcha, and that's it. They're gonna win.
To get out of the country, yeah.
That's nice. I mean, to be fair, K9 does still have a call out in a relevant map because it isn't ranked still, and that is LA.
I mean, I still call out K9.
K9, the office balcony holding fireplace. Everyone's like K9.
Really? Oh,
yeah. If you've ever,
I don't know if I've been paying attention to pro player streams to hear from K9. I mean, I would have been. I don't know if I would have been following the scene back when K9 was still playing. I got into it around the Paris Major.
Yeah. So on old maps, generally, if there's an angle from which you can have an elevated attacker look at defenders, sort of who are down below, generally that's where K9 would play. So that's just called K9.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, relatively simple because if one person keeps doing it, you might as well just say it out loud over and over. I get it.
It's like how, It's like how before.
Right. I'm trying to start this, and everyone's like, "Hey, I still have one other thing to add," but no.
You may speak, Jacob.
I'm gonna pull up a review. Say your piece.
I will. Sure. It's like how before they reworked Clubhouse, there was that little spot in blue, Adam.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone calls blue Adam now, like no joke, because of that one scenario where
I still call that corner Adam.
We call the entire room with the window Adam, and then blue stairs in T2. So respect has been paid.
All right, let's see. All right, I found one that we haven't read yet. So we always read out of like a review, 4 or 5 stars. It's fine. If we get like bad reviews, I'd also love to read those out. But on Apple Podcasts, 5-star, titled "This is the best out there. If you don't like this, I think you're bald."
Oh.
Wait, when was that comment made? Is my question.
Oh, hold on.
This is
proof I have hair.
4th,
Proof I have
May
hair. There we
4th.
go. All right.
May 4th. And I am bald starting May 24th.
This is really timely. Yeah.
Wow. All right, dude. I guess it had to
we hadn't had a bald guest on until that. Oh, no, Sternab's not bald. No, he just had his hair slicked back. I don't even remember what his hair looked like.
No, Sternab's not bald.
Sternab's not bald.
No,
he just has like very traditional British hair.
Yeah, like thin.
Which is to say, it looks like he dunked it in like a vat of Vaseline, and he just sort of
yeah,
very really traditional British hair. Yeah.
All right, so real quick, just before we launch into anything, I have that Down But Not Out charity tournament that I got to finish up in a little bit. So I want a hard cut podcast at right around, it would be 6:30 p.m. Eastern. So we got about an hour and 20 minutes. Podcast runtime for us is usually around the 2-hour mark, but we can kind of make this one a little bit shorter. Which, by the way, on that stream over the course of the past 2 days, SSG, Tempo Storm, Lonnie and the Lightning Bugs, and E United, all 4 of those teams, charity stream, benefiting modest needs, original $2,500 goal. We are at $7,500 still with 1 day left. So we've been blowing that out of the water, which is crazy.
Doesn't Rob Walker have to shave his head at $10,000?
He already has. I'm pretty sure he already has.
I'm pretty sure Rob Walker was bald to start with, but
we hit a donation goal earlier, and he had to have his kids pie him in the face.
Ooh, that was a good one.
That was one of the goals.
Yeah.
I showed a picture of me when I was 15 with really long hair. You had to shave one of your legs for one? That was
I had to shave one of my legs. I only one. Only one. So I have one.
The question, did you shave your other one? No, you didn't.
And one smooth leg, right?
It's terrible. I hate this.
I could never.
The reason the beard is gone is because we hit 7,500 on Wednesday.
And because it looks better.
Yeah. Mike Rodriguez doesn't have eyebrows now.
Yes, Mike.
I saw.
He did one eyebrow and then left the other eyebrow for another donation goal 2 days later. So for 2 straight days, he only had one of them.
Eyebrow.
which I don't know how he could stomach that.
I hope he stayed quarantined at home and did not go outside in that case.
I really hope he did too.
I really hope so.
But he was telling me, like, he told me he shaved it off like on stream. He literally grabbed a razor mid-match, did it in the middle of a game, and then he said his daughter was sleepwalking, walks into his room, like, and she's like 3 years old or something. Yeah. So walks in while he's doing the stream, and she just goes, "Dad, where's your eyebrow?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. Just go right back to bed." This is in the middle of a game. So hopefully we're able to smash past, maybe like if we can hit 10 grand, that would be fantastic, because that's like 4 times what our original goal was. We're already at 3 times past that. So if you're here because you understand anything that's happened on the CCS Down But Not Out charity stream, thank you. But that's why we'll make this podcast episode a little bit shorter. And then the other thing to mention is we know this, we have a tendency to not start the podcast on a Siege related topic. Sometimes we'll go off and do something different. And we do have a guest coming up next week that we probably want to be a little bit more formal with. So when Pengu and I were talking about when we could like find a time to organize for this episode in particular, I had a topic in mind that I think we can discuss in pretty good detail, and that's the European League. So we've spent 5 days now since that announcement. We've already broken down a whole bunch of elements of the format, things we like about it, things we think, we're maybe a little bit confused on or something, but why not, or who better to bring on than a European player to talk about the European League changes, because if anyone's going to have to worry about what the format looks like, it's going to be you. So in comparison to what European Pro League looked like for Season 11 and what we've seen of what the European League looks like now, give me a general idea of like versus dislike on what you think, just comparing the two together.
It's good timing, right? Because we actually have just had our first person qualify to Challenge League via this new format, as it impacts both Pro League and Challenge League and National League. Right. So yeah, it's interesting. The new format it's longer basically, which means that we have more time to be the best team in the region or whatever. Like Rogue has more time to be the best team in Europe. Like Empire has time to catch up. Yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Not that much has changed. It's still best of ones. There are still draws. We still got the 3 points, 2 points, 0 point system, and it will be seasonal. So there's like you have like 3 seasons, so to speak, that you'll gain points off. And then at the end of those 3 seasons, you'll have like a European League where I think it's a top 4 or so that they'll take to a LAN tournament. Yeah. And we'll actually have like a crowned European champion instead of just it being like the guy with the most points done. We'll have a top 4 in probably a best of 3, possibly a best of 5 grand final, fight it off at LAN event. And I imagine that possibly we'll play off the Challenge League relegation possibly as well, because it's the end of the season, right? So
it should, yeah. When it comes to like the relegation leading into Pro League, there should be the relegation game for that. There are relegations, at least for North America, at the beginning of every stage. The last place or the 2 last place Challenger League teams in North America play relegation games against teams that play a qualifier for those 2 spots at the beginning of every stage. I know that that's the case for North America. So in that you could literally kick out teams from CL before a season is even over and introduce new ones, but I don't 100% know if that's the case for Europe.
I'm pretty sure EU is different. I'm pretty sure ours, like, I would guess that it ties into the European champion thing because we have a LAN event and you want to do the relegation matches on LAN if possible. And ours is that like 9 month season-ish or whatever the case might be, the 8-9 months.
And I know the way to get into
we'll tie together.
Yeah. And the way to get into European Challenger League, if I'm correct, is through your national league, and then there will also be a one spot for Pan Europe.
Yeah.
So it's Spanish, Polish, GSA, French, Russian,
Nordic. Benelux. Did you mention Benelux?
Benelux is one, yeah.
And then what's the last one? Is it Italian?
Italian.
It is Italian.
I think it's Italian.
Yeah.
So you got...
and we had the Russian one just like yesterday or day before.
Yep.
Where
the Russian one, I think,
Virtus Pro won. They beat Empire in the grand final, I believe, in the best of 5. They had 1 map advantage because loser bracket. And then because Force got 3rd place, and since Virtus Pro and Empire are already in Pro League, and of course they're already above Challenge League, therefore 3rd place made it into Challenge League as the first team via national tournaments, basically.
Just like if
it was really just a matter of whether Fours or Crow Crowd, the 2 teams that weren't already in CL or PL, which one of them went further would then go to CL. So yeah.
Exactly.
It'll be the same. It'll be the same with French and GSA, I believe, because French has Vitality, right?
Yeah, and Penta as well, because I believe, right? Because they're French. They're
Penta's the one that will be fighting to qualify from the National League for CL in their case. Wait.
No, they're already in Challenge League, I believe.
No, they're already in. Yeah, no, my bad. You're right. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
throw it
them
in.
and Diffuse Kids. Because
Yes.
wait, wouldn't it have been secret qualifying if they hadn't disbanded or gotten? I think so.
No.
I'm trying to remember the placements because
No, I don't-
the idea was 3rd and 4th from last place of
The Secret
or
placed
from last
5th.
season. Yeah. Oh, Secret was 5th.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe
Wow.
so.
Yeah, it was.
didn't do
It was.
so hot.
It was Penta and Diffuse Kids.
Yeah,
Okay, so it was them all along. Got it.
I
Wow.
believe so.
And then Izzy, Dream, and Secret. I know. Well, it's weird because we talk about fours and how fours is now new fours and old fours is now VP.
We're doing
then-
it with
Yep.
Secret too.
And then there's Secret,
Yep.
which is Secret was Orglis,
Yep.
and now
But also was a British team. But
also was a
Prem
British team, and now is a GSA team.
Yeah.
It's
We-
fucking-
And then there are former secret players on different rosters, like Meepy is not
Yeah,
analyst for United
Meepy is
and all
now
those
United,
things.
and
Yankees
then-
free
Yeah.
agent.
yeah.
Yeah,
We're gonna
it's
be
a nightmare.
worrying or wondering about all these details for the next couple weeks at this point, because once everything starts and we get into more of a rhythm with how the system works, then everything will just become normalized, and we can all be like, well, okay, we will only attach Secret to one team, this set of players. We won't do it for what they did previously because now it doesn't matter, right? We have to focus on the new stuff. So
It's hard though because the British lineup was with Secret for so long and they achieved so much
Yeah.
with the organization as well. And Orglis has been
Same thing
Orglis for
with
so
Penta.
long, so same with
Orglis-
Penta to be fair.
Orglis had Orglis jerseys.
Yeah, they had
they
a
were
Twitter thing.
literally,
Yeah,
yeah.
they had a lot.
No, they
Yeah.
were Orglis for 9 months to a year, right?
Yeah, they played the entire thing unpaid in Challenge League and whatnot, and they grinded
Yeah.
it out. So there's kudos to them for standing.
No,
like, through it so much.
that entire organization ran on fucking McDonald's chicken nuggets for 9 straight months.
Yeah,
Yep.
they had to find a way to make it work. I mean, and to give yourself exposure as an Orglis team, I already know is hard. That's why we were there's a little deal that we managed to work together with an Australia New Zealand team called TBD. The Okami brand or the Okami branding style from North American CL was gifted to them. So now they've at least got something to run on in PL for the most part until they're able to find an org. It's just like difficult to broadcast yourself out there, like especially if you don't have a Twitter account, because in that I think that was almost the reason why Orglis had to make one, because they're like, well, we don't want a hashtag associated with our name, we want people to follow us, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of work put in behind the scenes to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly.
So here's a question that's going to come from a noob, and I was tweeting about this when the announcement hit, but I also kind of wanted to save it for this one so I can maybe fully understand more. I get the reasoning for why EUL would stick with the best of 1 format. 10 teams in means it would be really difficult to try to do an
A lot
online
of
best of 3.
hours.
It would take a long time, and they're not splitting it into a GS. What's the name of the bracket that North America's doing? GS something. GSL, that's what it is. But
mini
not splitting it up
tournaments.
into 2 groups. Right, well, the whole thing is a 10-team round robin.
Yeah.
So to me, I get why they would do best of 1s.
I get it. I fully
Explain
do.
to me why we hate there not being best of 3s for Europe. Other than that, there's less of a competitive advantage. What am I missing here?
So I think Thorin tweeted about this recently, where he said that right now in Counter-Strike, due to Corona or COVID-19, that this is the lowest level of Counter-Strike ever. And we also saw that in League of Legends for the they have their EULCS and NALCS. They also were like, a lot of people were like, oh, these guys are a scrim team, they're an online team, and a lot of people say like Stewie 2K goes like an online player. Playing LAN and playing online is a whole different scenario. And then you have best of 1s and best of 3 being very same. In a best of 1, you just, you ban a map each until there's 1 map left. No one is surprised. You can't do anything crazy. Then you look at Russian Major League, right? What happened? Empire was forced to play Villa every single match of the entire tournament. And then here comes the question for you. Does Empire play Villa? No, they have never played Villa until they're forced into it because of a best of 3 format. A best of 5 format is the highest skill required matchup because 1, you only have a single ban. It's a 7 map pool. You have 1 ban each. You play 5 maps. You ban 1, they ban 1, then you just pick your maps until you're done with it. So not only does it favor having a bigger map pool, which is a skill in itself, having strategies, call outs, and knowledge to play all those maps, but you also can bamboozle your opponent because if they don't have a big map pool, they get screwed. And if they do have a big map pool, then it's about leveraging your best maps first so that you can get like a lead before they get the lead. And we look at all the best tournaments that I can think of. We look at invitationals, majors, best of 3, best of 5 grand finals, going the distance, having infinite overtime as well, just adds another layer on top. In case you're having a tight fight, you can just keep fighting for it. Best of 1s have none of that. And a best of 1 is arguably great if that's a winner, but we play in a scenario where there can be no winners. We have a draw, 6-6. Both teams get a point. Yay, participation medal. Or you can lose, like they get 6 points first, and it's like there's no overtime. You can't come back. All you can fight for when they get 6 rounds is a draw. Let's say you're down 2-6. You go, guys, let's fight so hard. 4 more rounds. Let's get that draw. Get that 1 point. No one says that. People go, well, we can still get a point if we draw. It's not hype. It doesn't create good storylines. You can't really ever make a full comeback. You can just draw it out. So I understand why it's a best of 1 because of casting hours and just how much like broadcasting hours it required and studio time.
Yeah.
But for a competitive aspect, NA has a best of 3 LAN. We have best of 1 online with draws. So
would it be a different scenario? I mean, you can take a standard best of 1 into account where you're right, the casting hours, it would be, it's a good 5 to sometimes 6 hour full day to get like all of VUL situated with 10 teams. But would it have been nearly as bad of an idea if we were to find a way to add an infinite overtime rule to a best of 1? Just because you're right, the whole draw thing, I do think, does take away from storyline a bit, because it's like, okay, it's a draw, nothing happens now, we just get 1 point and move on, sweet, we didn't win or lose anything. But still having a bona fide winner is something that best of 3s do, because you have to win 2 straight out. And that infinite overtime thing can still be a fact. I guess it depends on what tournament it was at what point during the year that had an infinite overtime enabled. It leaves me wondering whether or not, you could have exercised something like that to just not leave it at the same best of 1 that we had for European Pro League previously. It's like it's mostly the same still.
The one issue that I have with unlimited overtime best of 1 was, and we have one of the players who was literally in that match here, so I could ask you.
Sure.
When you guys were playing Empire on Clubhouse, right?
Coastline,
sorry. Yeah. I know at like round 16, I said, fuck this, I'm going to go get something to eat. Right? I couldn't imagine what it would be like stuck in that game.
It's a different, it's something that I've only done once before. We played like a, I don't know if it, it was CCS. We played CCS against like, I think it was like Force or Russians or some sort of Russian organization team. With like, it was me, Dealer Dice Sack, some of my friends and whatnot from streaming. And we played like, I think the scoreline was like 14 to 12 on Consulate.
Yeah.
And it was very similar to our Empire final. It's like, it's back and forth. They win a round, you win a round. And in one way, it's extremely nerve-wracking because if you lose now, you put in so much effort and energy to get so far, and now you lost. But on the other hand, there's always also, in a way, there's no pressure because you always have more rounds. As long as you don't lose 2 in a row, you can go forever. So that you can just, save up your energy, just make it by, because most maps are either defender side or attacker sided. And just in our coastline match, it was like nobody could win an attacking round, I think, in the Empire D2 match.
Yeah, nobody won attack.
So I think we won the first attack at the very end, and that's how we won.
Yeah.
To my knowledge. We broke it that way. So it was really exciting because we knew as long as we didn't lose a defense, we could go forever. And they thought the same thing. And it was just clutch after clutch, etc. So it was just intense.
Was that a scenario where you kind of felt like all the pressure in the world and also no pressure kind of at the same time?
Literally that.
But I guess the question I have for you is, would you be willing to do that possibly 9 times in a row? Right? That's sort of the question that we have to ask. Because
it's a good question.
If we have 2 evenly right, I'm not talking about like G2 versus fucking, I don't know, Lonnie and the Lightning Bugs, right? Something that's gonna be a very obvious just slam, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But if it's you guys versus an evenly matched opponent, are you willing to do that at a minimum, probably 4 or 5 times every 3 months?
What I would prefer in a best of 1 scenario is that we increase the round count and we give it just overtime, right?
Okay.
So instead of playing first to 6 or first to 7 in this case, we play first to 10, first to 11, and we really crack out the rounds, and it's because right now, let's say you get a crazy clutch or a crazy flank, you get really good timing or a crazy lucky wallbang. That one round has a very big significant impact, right? And it's round defining. And when it's only first to 7, and you only play, 6 defense rounds, 6 attacking rounds, getting one lucky round has a major impact. In CS:GO, playing first to 16, getting a single clutch doesn't mean much. But you have economy, which has a longer term impact. So I would just increase the round span that we play for each best of 1, and possibly give it overtime, just the regular overtime. That's what I would do.
No, that's definitely
like
something.
A compromise.
Yeah. If we look at something like CS:GO, where they have maps that are, ridiculously T-sided, like let's look at something like Inferno, right?
Yeah.
Inferno, you can drop 14 rounds in a row and go, okay, that's the usual. Let's get back to it, right?
Yep.
Right?
Like cafe defense on Siege.
No, it's because they have just such a massive amount of time to play that game. They have 16 rounds at a minimum.
Yeah.
You can get away with a lot more.
Yeah. You can.
And that's 16 rounds without even having super long rounds in between either. Like, a big reason for why I feel like it's a little hard to get into Siege sometimes is just because round duration is extended comparative to most other FPSs that are also round bomb-based kind of things. So it makes it weird when you're going into it and you're like, well, we have to sit here for a whole 3.5 minutes plus, prep phase plus pick phase plus reveal and 6-pick and all that. And it's just like, well, we got to wait again to keep on going back to the well, and by the time you think you can try something experimentative, or you might have a round that you can not throw away, but you can try to get away with something that's out of your playbook, so to speak, to get an advantage, you have less leeway to do that because there's just less rounds and a half. So
no, it's true.
If it got extended to what, as opposed to 6 rounds per half, what, 7 or 8 kind of thing, first to 16?
Probably like 8. I think is a good starting ground where I don't know. It's hard to say without trying it.
Sure.
We did think about scrimming it before to see what it would feel like, but we never got around to it. But I would say like an 8 or a 9. But then we're also like, is it too much? Maybe like too much time because of the downtime. And we feel the same as players. Like when we win a round and then we got 6-pick and then we got prep phase, and then on most maps you're not gonna have any engagements for the first 45 seconds or so. Like let's say you're playing Cathay, you spend the first 30 seconds not getting spawn peaked, rappelling up and breaking a hatch, right? That's the first 30 seconds. So as a viewer, it's a lot of downtime. As a player, it's a lot of downtime. But we also need downtime to a degree because of the strategical depth that Siege offers. So it's like a bittersweet scenario. But I do think that like scratching maybe the 6-pick or winning some seconds here and there, I think it could, like, speeding up reinforcement in general, like the animation of it, could save you some seconds here and there. Just for the prep phase, that is.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I know there's been a lot of talk about, back and forth whether or not 6th pick should exist at a professional level. Not because, it's broken or anything, but because most people go, what does this even do?
Yeah, it's very confusing. When I play tournaments on the stream like GoForce, people are like, why can you see their lineup? Are you cheating? And I'm like, it's complicated. Basically, they can 6-pick, so one of their 5 guys can change to another one of the guys that they haven't picked yet, and we don't know about it, and they can see I was doing the same thing. And then it's like, what's the point? The point is, if they see that we have no Jaeger, they're gonna 6-pick into nades. If they see that we have a mute, they're gonna 6-pick Thatcher. If they see a Valkyrie, they'll 6-pick the IQ. It's a counter thing. And to a degree, you can say that the 6-picked option, because of the operator line reveal, it does kill the element of surprise. Let's say we picked like Finger, Blitz, Ying, Lion, Dokkaebi. They would see it from a mile away.
Yeah, you can't 6-pick out of that.
No, you can't, because you only 6-pick one thing. So you could play like Blitz, and then they'll think you 6-pick off it, but in fact you 6-pick into a Finger to enable the Blitz more. So it's very limited what you can do with it, basically.
Yeah.
So that was a point of contention for a bit. I mean, I think everyone, if you can get away with a best of 3 in an online format, I think there's a part of you that's probably going, try it. Why not? Like North America's doing it. Can we find a way to do it too? So there was a general sentiment, I think, on Twitter of everyone saying, we still have best of 1s. Like there's still an auto relegation in here. Like this still sucks, like a little bit.
Yeah.
But diving a little bit deeper into some of the other details about it, I think auto relegation hit probably harder than the fact that it was a best of 1, mainly because we hadn't seen that for 2 straight seasons. We didn't do it for season 10, and season 11 obviously didn't need to worry about it because we were just adding on 2 more European teams.
Yeah,
so
true.
to have auto relegation back in, I think specifically Fresh hit this point home, saying if you are within a 10-team structure, you got round robin, you face everybody that's within your league because we're not splitting it into groups, then at the end of a 9-month-long period, if you go through an entire season and you face the best teams in Europe, which is the strongest region in Siege, pretty much bar none, then you are at the bottom of a scoreboard of all of this top tier talent, 9-month-long period, and you still suck, then you deserve that auto relegation.
I did the same thing because I'm a hard ass. The issue is, right? The issue is, let's say the number 1 team is Rogue and they have 20 points. Let's say the dead last team has 16. Do they deserve to get auto relegated because they're so much worse? No. But if the top team has 20 points and the bottom team has 5, then you can talk about a skill gap. Or if the bottom team has 5 and second bottom has 10, again, skill gap. So in a perfect world, if you were to have auto relegation, there should be like a point gap where you can only get auto relegated if you are significantly at the bottom, right? But in a perfect world, you probably just wouldn't have auto relegation to begin with because you just have them fight for their spot. Because if they are so bad, well, the team that is worse than them because they're not in Pro League, they should be able to prove that they're better by beating them in a best of 3 to qualify, right? That makes perfect sense. That's what the second bottom team is doing with the second top Challenge League team. They have a relegation match.
I think
because auto relegation doesn't do anyone favors, really.
I think also as well when we're talking about a span as long as 9 months, right? We've seen the changes teams can make within the span of a month. Right? So you could start a season or a EU Pro League season, right, with 5 players, and you can end it with 5 completely different players.
Basically, yeah.
Right? So that's an entirely different team.
I mean, this isn't North America. In North America, we are oversaturated with roster moves to the point that we're not totally sure if a team has it. I mean, in Europe, it's not nearly as big of a deal. You're totally right. It could be 5 totally different players. But yeah, it's like even just having one person come in as a replacement is still a much bigger deal because it's what I said earlier. Even one roster move changes a team status from really good, really bad, or somewhere in the middle to just, I don't know, because have that impact of that one player coming in, can produce, it will still be a relatively unknown factor until you just spend more time with it. But I think it's like when you get into that phase and let's say you have a roster change in like the middle of a stage or the middle of a season and it still doesn't have the potential to turn a team's performance around, then you really just have a tendency to blame, oh, hey, we got auto relegated because we brought this new guy in and he sucked. Yeah. Like I don't really want it to ever get to that point, even though it does leave the door open to do it, right?
Well, I mean, there's also the argument that if you're about to be auto relegated, just fucking put the thing into 5th gear and do what you can to try to gain enough points to get into that 7th place spot, right? As long as you're not like permanently screwed, you can definitely shake things up to see what sticks because you're last. What's the point in not?
That's very true. There is one point. This is like something that you don't normally like talk about a lot, but this happens in every sport and every esport. With auto relegation, there are scenarios, and auto qualification for that matter. There are scenarios where some teams have the power in their hands to choose between 2 teams to qualify or get disqualified, right? Let's say that us beating an opponent makes someone go to last place or stay at last place, but if we beat that said opponent, they go from last to second last and we save their careers. And it's not really about match fixing, like they're paying us money. It's not like that at all, but it's like, when you go into a match and you can literally decide someone's fate, you will be biased, right? Is it your best buddies that you scrim every single day on the other side of the bracket? Or is it the ones you hate that you want to get out because you dislike them? Yeah. And this has been an issue since the very beginning of Dawn and Time and all that stuff. It's like taxes. They come for your buddy even if you don't like it.
I mean, there was a scenario that was... this literally happened, if I remember correctly, in North America.
It was EU as well.
It was Mouse Sports versus... somebody, and I forget what, and it was like basically depending on who won that game, one team or another team would get relegated. And Mouse Sports played that game real fucking weird.
It
was Noble. It was Mouse versus Noble. They got auto relegated.
That's a long
This was before my time, so I'll let you take it over.
Okay. It's a long time ago.
Mouse was doing like Ying hot breaches with a shotgun shit, right? Things that only Hungry should legally allowed to be doing. But
it's true.
And so basically for like probably a week straight, everyone went crazy going like, what the fuck is going on? Did they throw this game to get Obey out? Like,
yeah. That's
nobody knew.
People have.
Nobody knew. And to this day, I think you could still argue one way or another because nobody said anything.
I think we had the same in EU. I think it was our game against some team. I don't remember exactly. Like, my memory is so bad with this. But I believe that our fave decided between auto relegation for like Secret or Penta or something along those lines, like 2 teams in Europe or something along those lines. And we played the game the way that we wanted to play the game. But because the game had big impact, people were like, oh, they wouldn't normally lose that bomb site, or oh, there's no way they win this. And I believe we won the match.
People were questioning it when there were things out of the ordinary. Yeah.
People are just questioning it because they're questioning it. It's not like they have a reason to, basically, right? To study it. Because we, generally speaking, just played the game and let fate decide. We didn't try to win. We tried to win. We didn't try to lose. But we didn't want to show new strats to like really win, right? Played a default game. And it was like, we ended up like knocking Secret out because we won or whatever, and they hated us. Like, they thought we did it on purpose, and like they wouldn't scrim us anymore and all those things. And we're like, that's really not what happened. And we didn't have a choice. We couldn't forfeit the match. That's not against the rules. Like, that's literally against the rules. We had to play it. And we also can choose, even though it's not like morally correct. And it's just an impossible scenario that you put teams in with auto relegation, basically.
Yeah.
Possibly.
That's fair. What's the, I think it works the same way in North America as it does in Europe. With that relegation game played between the second to last Pro League team and the, I believe, second place Challenger League team from that season, how does it feel to be in a position as that Challenger League team to quite literally yeet a Pro League team out of Pro League in a best of 3 LAN format somewhere in Europe? Because there's an opportunity to do that in North America, except it's literally we are evicting you, get out of Las Vegas. Like, that's such a weird thing to think about, and it's going to happen, like a relegation will actually happen in person for the first time ever, and it's never happened that way in Siege before. It is such a tantalizing prospect with enough storyline behind it already. It is just, bro, it is so cool.
I mean, that's just ruthless, no? Like,
it's but
you're
from a fan's perspective, I think it's cool to look at that. I'm like, yeah, that's great. Yeah. I don't know if I think it. No, never mind. I was going to make a point about something else related to North America, but I know Europe doesn't run on a LAN League format anyway. Everyone's either playing from their homes or their own HQ, so it won't have, I think, the same impact in Europe because it won't force you to move someplace else, but still.
I don't know. I think it would be fun to have like a reality show where the Challenger League team just like, that Dave Chappelle sketch where it's just the Challenger League team walks into the Pro League house and just goes, nice couch, and just jumps on it. Right? Just rancid shit like that. I think that would be pretty NA.
That'd be great.
But I mean, the one. Sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm gonna change topic. So let's wrap it up first. You go this first.
No, I was going to continue on my terrible tangent. You go ahead, change the topic for the betterment of the
He's saving us from a moment of the podcast that's really awkward. So just go. Come on.
I was going to say, I do feel that the whole, like, NA having LAN and localizing and, like, facilities and all that stuff, I do think that that's actually going to draw a lot of EU talent over to NA. Like, EU right now is great. Like, we have a lot of talented teams, both current and up and coming, like, really good tier 2, tier 3 scene, etc., national leagues, yada, 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 yada. But if I was a player in the free market right now and I could choose between EU and NA, if I wanted to be the best player I could become, I would go NA 100%. Native speaking teams in EU, that's a big issue with English and stuff. Like, there's all mixed teams or Russian teams in this case. You have facilities, averagely higher salaries, and NA for esports purposes is just bigger and better, basically. If I was a free agent or just a content creator, I'd move to NA as a full-time player or a streamer in that case and live there for sure. And I personally, I mean, if I could choose right now, I would go NA as well. Like, I would, because it's a 3 on LAN. Like, who doesn't? Like, you play LAN every single week. You're ready for it. You're in a different environment. When you go to invitationals, you are LAN environments already. Yeah. You play in Europe, you are cold. Like, your feet and hands they don't know what's happening. So NA has a proper advantage, and people will say, but Pengu, Brazil has had that forever because they've been localized since like the Brazil days before Pro League even started there.
Right. And
that's true. But I do think that Brazil is in this scenario where they have, just like APAC, a very top-heavy top and a very bottom-heavy bottom. And the method they play in that region is vastly different than EU and NA, both separately and combined. And we do see some Brazilian teams doing it internationally pretty well, but overall they don't really match up with EU or NA.
And it's also the major issue that APAC and like ANZ has, that Brazil has, which is getting a scrim is hard.
Yeah.
Right? Because
in
NA, you can just basically scrim anyone. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can.
But in Brazil, there's not only a language barrier, but you're going to have a trillion ping to everybody. EU has 700,000 teams to scrim because there's the Pro League team, there's the European League teams, there's the European Challenger League teams, and then there's the European Regional League teams, and then there's like smaller orgs than that do stuff there. But I think really what it comes down to is scrim quality. And I think you're not going to, as great as those regions are, as great as those regions have shown themselves to be over the years, there's a lot to be said for having fantastic practice partners. That's
very true. And I mean, I see a lot of drama on Twitter from NA pros saying that the only teams that are worth scrimming now are like, I don't know, TSM, Daxi, or SSG, like something like that. Like every other team is just not worth their time because they play overly aggressive or they don't play like they would in Pro League. And it's like, I mean, we have that in EU as well. Like not every single team always scrim like they play in Pro League. That's always the case. But I do definitely think that we have more teams we can scrim in Europe than any other region that can give us pushback. Because we've been scrimming tier 3 teams and even some like arguably tier 4 maybe even. And
yeah, you've been playing a couple rank stacks, yeah.
Yeah, we have, and like we back when the UK crazy roster that was like supposed to do really well, back when they were called M&M, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
When they first like up and coming, we scrimmed them like twice a week, I think, and they were nobodies. Like they were not worth our time on paper. But did they push us to the limit in scrims? Oh yes, they did. Did they show us crazy strats? Yes, they did. And we expected them to go all the way in Challenge League qualifiers and all the way in Challenge League, and they just didn't make it. And that happens. Sometimes you have a really good period. The gas stops burning, you slow down again, but they were really strong. And they were not a team you would expect to scrim a lot, but we did. It was completely worth our time. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of just what we're dealing with right now is because we're switching formats and because a lot of this stuff, people are looking for new people to scrim. And also because of just the way the Challenger League in Europe now works, is everyone has to go into these regional leagues. And what you're probably going to see is a lot of like what happens on a global scale. So NA plays like NA, EU plays like EU, and Latin America plays like Call of Duty, right? So
that's the case, you say,
yeah.
So I think what we're going to see in Europe is there's going to be that bifurcation as well, where we see GSA plays like GSA, Italy plays like Italy, Spain plays like Spain, and we're going to see that. And we're going to see the Pro League teams that are in those scenarios, whether they know it consciously or not, they're going to adopt sort of the way that they play their
metagame, right?
Yeah, the metagame. Like, British Counter-Strike is different from the German Counter-Strike, which is different than French Counter-Strike. We're not going to talk about British Counter-Strike, all right?
No, it's the UK esports.
please don't talk about British Counter-Strike.
I know Leon's in
English
here.
is your first language. You cannot play CS.
That doesn't have a team anymore. He fits the category. Dude. What do you mean? Come on. He'll find a team. No, bless him. He'll find a team.
I find the irony of saying that and just knowing that your coach is British, but I'm just going to let that slide.
There is like
CS is a one of a kind.
Yeah. There's one good English-speaking CS team, and it's whatever team Dick Stacey is on, because that man is a champion.
That's Australian.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure they're not.
Yeah.
Came
my
close.
point.
Came close.
All right.
I get it. Yeah. You know what? Did you have another point? Because I was gonna make something about Challenger League and National Leagues.
Go ahead.
So another thing that we kind of saw come out as a result of, I don't want to call it fallout, but once we saw it from all of the formats getting released, was the idea that there might be some teams that qualify from a national program that are not nearly as good as some other teams from any other region in Europe. Because we haven't ever seen, I don't know if we have seen a full Italian team or a full Polish team or a full, like just any team that is fully comprised or 4/5 comprised of those nationalities in CL previously. I might be misremembering or not aware of it, but we can use
Flamer is Italian. Pretty sure they made it to Challenge because they went Pro League previously. But that's
a good
many,
point.
many years
No,
ago.
that's fair. That's fair.
Wasn't MKers Italian?
Makers is Italian, yeah.
Yeah, Makers. Well, they Baka Brian was there, who was Swiss, so it depends on what time, what timeline you're talking of.
Because and then they had
MKers,
Bagel as their coach, and he was American.
Yeah, like they were. I think they were Italian. Then they became mixed, and then I don't know what they are now, but yeah.
I guess the point I want to circle back into is let's use the UK scene as an example. I just pulled up the Premiership page for the last ESL Premiership, and we can use the grand finals like Crazy versus Demise. So if we just very, very broad, we obviously know Crazy doesn't have a Siege roster at the moment, but if it came down to one of those two teams making it from the UK and Ireland National League to make it into CL, only one of them can make it, and then they still have another opportunity to qualify. Like, let's say Crazy wins and Demise, okay, we have the open qualifier still, we can still win through there. And that's any team in Europe has the ability to play through that for a chance to make it to CL. But if they still don't make it, because there were all of these other national program teams, like a full Polish team, that is probably not at the same skill level as the rest of the teams that could have been in CL and just didn't make it through the qualifier, it creates this really weird dynamic, because as much as I love the idea of trying to get these other regions to, be more serious about it, or like give them more attention, or really help spread the idea that Siege played in these regions that it isn't played very often, is a good thing. Like, we want more of that kind of support, but to have it be a requirement to make it to CL to win from a national program, and then to have the potential to kick someone out who's probably better than you, it's for the team that doesn't qualify, that sucks. But like, you want to make it, you have the skill, you just got ousted by one team from your national league and then didn't make the qualifier. But there are you know that you're better than some teams in CL, you just couldn't make it in. What does that say about that?
There's something Machiavellian in me that just wants to say, then win, forehead. But I know that's not true, but it's just
that's toxic.
At a certain point, just fucking win.
I mean, yeah, it is that simple in theory, right?
Yeah, in theory. No, it's much harder in practice.
Hats, dude. I mean, someone raised this on Twitter where they were like, "Oh, some national leagues are gonna have like crazy stacked teams, like GSA has."
GSA's fucking ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at GSA, like technically speaking, it's gonna be fourth place, winning the qualification spot to Challenge League, right? Because we're 3 Pro League teams. And they're not going to get any prize money. They're not going to get anything, but they will get fourth place and basically win. And that is really weird on paper, because that's not fun to watch, right?
Yeah,
and
surprised
saw our last
that
game.
Pro League teams are in regional competitions.
I'll tell you why they're in. I'll tell you why they're in. To build it, right? I mean, who's gonna watch, Kenny Dopper 420 play GSA on a Thursday night? Who is?
That's fair.
No one is. We're there for exposure. We're there to help. We're there for some free cash, arguably, as well. And you can say right now, it doesn't look pretty. We're playing Blitz, Monte Carlo, Glass, Sofia, winning against Turtle Esports and GSA, basically mocking them on live television. And it's terrible in that regard. But I think National League is not about what it is now. It's about what it'll be in a year or two from now, right?
Yeah.
Because if you play D2, if you play Rogue, if you play Secret on a weekly-ish basis, or every 2 or 3 weeks you play one of the teams, you're gonna get better, and you're gonna get a really good experience that you normally wouldn't get, because we're not gonna scrim those teams because they are not up to our standards, but we will have to play them and they'll get that experience. We're gonna help build the scene, and in a year from now, national leagues might just be incredible to watch. But no one knew this national thing was really happening except for very deep inside personnel. So, we haven't seen crazy, rank stacks or, regional stacks being made for this purpose of making Challenge League just yet. But in a year from now, we'll see a lot of national teams that are aiming for that spot, basically.
Oh, yeah. No, I know. Like, the Nordic League already is just absolutely friggin' hyper competitive as hell right now. If you're not watching...
Yeah, Wavy's in there.
Yeah, if you're not watching Nordic League is pretty much entirely made up of people who are just like, we are Finnish, we plant bomb, we win, and it's just the funniest shit to watch. It's so good. It's so great.
And there's Wavy.
Wavy's
great.
I mean, Nordic, even for people who aren't really super familiar with the European League, it's got Chaos in it. It's got a PL team in there. It's got Sisu. Yeah, so you've already got 2 teams that have already got previous Pro League exposure. Like, oh, they're playing in this league. Oh, maybe that's enough of a reason to go watch it. I think your point about there needing to be a draw for some of these national leagues for people to come watch it and maybe even like take it seriously. In the case of GSA, because there aren't nearly as many people who could be watching GSA, you know, as there could be right now. There could be a lot more people flooding in, but you guys play along with Secret, along with Rogue, so there is more of a reason for people to tune into the streams and if nothing else, like see if it's something that they're into, because when they look at it and go, wait a minute, why isn't it just Pro League teams versus Pro League? What league is this? I'm so confused. It's giving everyone a reason to root for these other guys who, 1, are getting slammed. They will get better, you're right. But 2, it's giving them a reason to look at other teams in that part of the scene that they otherwise wouldn't have had previous exposure to unless they like made CL and they were on a bigger stage. This, for them, is that bigger stage until they find out who makes Challenger League.
To me,
very true.
To me, it reminds me a lot of the way that, and this is me revealing my power level a little too much. It reminds me a lot of the way that regional Super Smash Brothers is set up.
How is it set up?
So basically you have like city tournaments, right? So you'll have an Atlanta Brawl. And then if you have an Atlanta Brawl, maybe you're good enough to go to Southeast Brawl tournaments, right?
Okay.
And then if you can go to Southeast Brawl tournaments and you can start winning, you can start building up a fan base, you can start getting sponsors, you can start going to EVO, right? Maybe not even EVO, maybe just US Nationals at this point. And you can start going to all of these different tournaments and you can start, you know, driving yourself around. It's so in Tekken, and I'm gonna go off on a bit of a tangent here because I think it's related and I think it's important. In Tekken, there's this guy named Arslan Ash. He is a Pakistani kid. Never really left Pakistan for a while, but he basically just sat there and ground out Tekken for years. And people would basically, they used to come to Pakistan to do Tekken because that's where the best players were for, you know, reasons that exist. And so
the mystery of the universe, why is this one country so good at this one game kind of thing?
No, nobody knows why fucking Pakistan is the best Tekken.
Of all the countries, I was going to say.
Like Arslan Ash, by the way, undefeated run through EVO. Absolutely slaughtered the best players in the world his first time in a tournament. Just ruined everybody, wrecked everybody, completely fucking, like empired people, right? Just demolished everybody.
Yeah.
And he's interviewed and he's sitting there and he's going like, I don't think I'm that good. I regularly get my ass whooped back in Pakistan, and everyone's sitting there like, shit.
There's still really good people in Pakistan. We gotta go get them. They could be world champions.
This guy knows more about Tekken than all of us combined, and you're telling me he's not even the best one there, right?
So what that's just doing is reinforcing the idea of play in a minor league and then just keep on progressing through league to league to league, keep getting better until the point that you have an opportunity to qualify for, you know, the thing that you're fighting for. Because in his case, Arslan Ash wants to make EVO. All these other guys want to make PL and make the Invitational at some point, but having it in Europe now be this structured multi-league European process gives everyone more of a structured chance to do that. It's a little bit more skewed towards the teams from that country because there's going to be a guarantee one of them gets in at some point.
Yeah.
So,
and then there's also the idea that we don't know where the next Siege gods will come from, right? For Tekken, there's players in Pakistan who are still undiscovered, who players are just like, yeah, go down to this arcade and you'll play them and you'll get your ass whooped. It's not even fun, right? And it's just some like 16-year-old kid who's sitting there just going like, hey, I gotta go to school, but you want to play some Tekken? And he kicks your ass and leaves for fucking history class, right? And so
it's like a rite of passage at that point.
Yeah, no, so there's pockets of Siege that are probably like Pakistan was for Tekken, just completely undiscovered, just mechas, right? Like, we might wake up one day and just realize that we're completely in an Argentinian meta and there's nothing we can do to stop it.
That's true. That's actually very true. I mean, you just look at Empire.
Mexican Siege has been the best Siege ever. We've just never seen it.
Look at Empire. Everyone's sitting there and going like,
into Pro League, like one Raleigh, like it literally went from nowhere to everywhere, and they just overtook the scene completely.
Nobody knew who Empire was, and then they're just like, we will win this, and then they did.
Right? Especially for the English-speaking crowd, more people knew about Eminem and the eventual Na'Vi roster than people who spoke English, which is probably the majority of people who play Siege. knew about Empire before they qualified through Challenger League, blasted through Pro League, and won Milan. So you're right.
Yeah, but that's another issue, is that the national leagues are streamed in foreign languages, right? That's one thing that holds the broadcast back a lot. Like GSA is only German, the French league's going to be in French, etc. Nordic
I know
is
Nordic
in
is English. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's the 4 Nordic languages, right?
Yeah.
So
they just broadcast in English.
Yeah, which one do you pick? But French is French and German is German, and they're all proud of their languages, and I get it. But if you want to really cramp the viewership up and get more international fans on board for these players and for the broadcasting team, going English would be massive, or having a separate stream in English even would help massively.
I would say just have a separate stream in English, because you look at all these Dota tournaments and there's
there's a bunch.
85,000 people watching in Russian and 16 watching in English.
Like, what am I looking at? Why does it matter? I don't know, because I don't
just
speak
some guy
Russian.
going like, "Oh, is the Grebs good name?"
That was legit the case with Russian Major League.
Booth.
Like, I was really looking to see if someone could have done an English stream for that, because I would have been all over that. I tried watching some of it, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, give me more importance from a casting perspective. It's when Milos said something in a subtweet. I'm getting all Reddit detective, but there was a potential at one point for GSA to have an English cast, I was about to go crazy over that, because I would have loved to have seen, all of the action that's happening in a completely different region. It has a Pro League team draw, some guys I don't know about. I'm all over that. I'd love to pay more attention to it, but just not being able to connect more with it because it's not in my language is a big deal. So everyone was absolutely sleeping on Empire. People will continue to sleep on regions until, they're given a reason to not. And if someone from one of those someone from one of those national leagues is able to make more noise, then it does turn everybody else on to the idea of what if there are other teams in that region that can also do pretty well. Because when Empire did what they did, they made their massive run in Season 9, they win Milan. I don't know if it wakes everyone up to the whole potential of what Russian Siege can be, but it does be like, oh, well, here's another country that we can put on the map. Because no one else in Russian Siege had done anything notable up until that point. It's kind of almost like in your case, you're one of two, one of two people who've ever played in Pro League from Denmark? Has it only ever been two? It's you and Zoronic, right?
No, there's a third. Thompson played for Barrage. They lost every single match in Pro League. They got 10-0 for the first time in EU history, I believe.
Oof.
They were not relevant, and they also disbanded and retired after that season, I believe. Most of the players anyway. But Thompson did play Challenge League and Pro League for a single season, and then he went to the Danish military, I believe, and he retired.
Got it.
So technically 3 people, but only successfully 2 people. Zoronic and myself.
Yeah.
And Zoronic was almost the world champion, so.
Yeah. I remember that, yeah. All right, sorry, I don't remember it. I wasn't following Pro League at the time. I have to stop saying I remember it because I'm a baby.
But you know of it.
I am aware of it, yes.
Yeah, next what time, final round, team kills happen on Bang. It's nightmare stuff.
Oh, no.
Oh, God
is it worth a rewatch? I don't know if Zoronic's in here. I don't know if he's going to be mad at me if I go back and watch that game.
The thing is, right, if Playing Dogs had won that tournament, then CTM wouldn't have been back-to-back because they won Year 1, Season 3 into Invitationals, right?
Yeah.
If Playing Dogs had won that tournament, that final round, the CTM era might have not ever happened because they were just won Invitationals, if anything. Not a Pro League final into Invitationals.
We could have stopped Canadian.
We could have stopped Canadian.
We were this close to greatness. We were
close but no cigar.
No, but I mean, honestly, if you are dealing with something like an online league, which I think I think some of the country leagues will be, just because of COVID and it's hard to get a LAN league going right now.
Yeah. I think every single one for the first season will be online. Like a GSA, to my knowledge, is also online for the LAN finals, so to speak, because COVID is supposed to shut down everything up till late this year at the earliest.
Yeah, but weren't there, not even for the finals, weren't there some of those regionals that were supposed to take place, their whole season was meant to be on? Wasn't that why the 6th French League was postponed? I swear, there was a reason for one of them.
I know Italian League
getting
is
moved
LAN.
back. Is Italian League LAN?
I think so.
Really?
Maybe?
I actually don't know. Nordic isn't. I know that much.
Nordic is not.
Spanish might be LAN.
Wow, it does say Italy Nationals 2020 is played online. That's nuts.
Oh.
But I would assume they're currently not, because matches for that season started in April 20th. So at that point, there's no way they'd be able to compete on LAN.
But so where I'm going with this is, if they're playing online, that means that there is somewhere a clean feed And if you have a stable of English casters who you can say, look, you want to fucking cast like Italian League? You need to learn all this shit. You need to know how to do it. You need to know these players. You need to know these storylines. But if you do, here's the YouTube URL.
Yeah.
Go nuts, right? And give them like R6 Italy _EN. Let them have the stream key to that. Just let them go on that, right?
Yeah.
Get a producer or something.
Simple.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
I could scrounge together my guys from Challenger League and do it legit tomorrow. I'd be down.
The payment and the security stuff might be complicated, but
sure, yeah, that's a different story.
Like all of the infrastructure already exists.
It does.
The question isn't can we do it? The question is will we do it? And the question is why aren't we doing it? Really, that's what I want to know.
I'm trying to play devil's advocate and concoct an answer.
I mean, obviously, as you said, the security issue is a thing. There has been leaked clean feeds in the past, and it's been a whole drama thing. Yada yada.
I mean, I know for a fact that I've watched clean feeds that got leaked on stream because I'm like, I don't want to hear these casters, so I just click that.
Then there's the money issue, of course. That's the biggest one. Like there are budgets, and they're tight, and they will never expand upon like great realization. Like they will be limited, of course, because money are limited. But I do believe that there are a lot of casters that would do it dirt cheap and some even for free just to get their name out there and to get experience.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not great to do free work, but it's a good way to start. It's a good way to get out there. It's a good way to get experience and see if it's for you. I fully agree with that. An English cast would only benefit the scene the more we have of them, but for now it's early days.
This is the moment where I think we can really begin to I hate doing it, but it's the moment when I don't know if I really recognize that most of professional Siege is tethered to the fact that you're speaking the same language. I would absolutely be watching BR6 if there was an English cast for that, because there's pro league teams that I've been following for the past, year and a half to 2 years almost at this point.
Wasn't there an English cast for BR6 at one point?
If there was, I wasn't aware of it, but I don't know if that's going to be a plan for moving
probably
forward.
Like in 2018 or something.
Sure, yeah,
I'm
but
not
for the new
about,
system, for BR6 and the entire, I would watch Mexican Siege. I would watch South American Siege with Argentina, like all of these different sub-regions packed into everything that is Latin America. I absolutely would. But the fact that we have English comms for probably a majority of teams in Europe at this point, we have English comms and English following for the entirety of North America, and a good portion of Asia Pacific is also doing the same thing. We've got English casts for Korea and Southeast Asia previously, back when their divisions worked that way for Pro League as of last season, the season before that. But I would watch those. Like I'd stay up late and watch those if I couldn't sleep, just because I'm like, you know what, there's Siege on right now. I'll go through and do it. I'm willing to do that. But the fact that we have so much of what we know about Siege competitively tethered to English is a big deal. I'm really happy that Brazil has as big of a scene as it does. I am ecstatic that they're going through and doing like a draft, academy system, all of that stuff, because they draw on the viewership. I am so stoked that it's such a big deal over there. But if I can't connect to it in some other region as someone who's trying to do my best to cover it and consume as what I can of it, I hate not being able to consume it just because of a language barrier problem.
I fully agree.
Can we fix this, please? If someone is listening, can we fix this? I don't care who the casters are either. It doesn't matter to me one way or the other. Just give me something in English. That's all I
have
ask.
the same. I was watching Russian League, Major League, and I was just like, I wanted to slap on my second monitor, just listen along, like what's happening, who's winning. I tried, and I didn't understand much, except for like some words are English because they don't translate, but I'm like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know who's winning. I don't know who's clutching, right? So I just couldn't have it on my second monitor. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I stopped watching.
And we're not, though this is, the three of us do speak English, maybe there should be, if you can get it, like a Portuguese cast for all of these, or a French cast for all of these, right? We're not saying this should only be in English, and English should be the only language spoken in Siege. Yeah, no. I'm just clarifying. What we're saying is we have the infrastructure already. The question is, do we have the budget? Because I can guarantee you there are probably also people sitting there in Brazil going, damn, I would love to watch GSA. It's got 3 Pro League teams.
Sure.
It's got all that great stuff. I would sit there and I would watch that. But I don't speak German.
No, you gotta go out of your way to watch it now, right? And you gotta either mute the audio or just play along.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I mean, and the thing is, GSA, I haven't really watched the other viewership numbers for other nationals, but I know Russian Major League did quite well. I know GSA posts like 3 to 5K viewers every single time they play, even for the lower teams, and it's been doing really, really good. Production value is great for GSA stream as well. Like, it's worth broadcasting. It's good. So it's again, like, there are viewers for it. I was very surprised to see 3,000 views on a German stream for GSA. Very surprised.
I mean, are there not like enough GSA broadcasts or like German broadcasts to be comparable for when it is like a German broadcast with like big pro teams and it's like 3,000 is a big number comparatively?
Yeah.
The largest German Siege player is like Siege professional player, I think, is KS.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right? And he doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't pull in 3,000 to 5,000, right? He's not like Bolo, where you can always tell when Bolo plays because there's that giant spike in
There's
analytics.
a massive, or their YouTube VOD is more views than anyone
Pengu.
else.
Whenever Pengu plays, it's like whenever G2
When does
shows up,
Bolo
it's like
play?
spike. Right?
I mean, YouTube VODs is like EU is G2, NA is TSA, and we pull like 10 times the viewership of some teams. It's ridiculous.
Brazil is liquid. Yeah,
liquid Brazil. Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, I've gone in and I've sat there and I'm looking at like the VOD of an English cast of Chaos versus Fours, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, who the fuck is watching this? There's like 6 people here with me. Like, what's going on?
Hopefully that'll change once we get a little bit more, like, I guess, publicity towards more of that kind of stuff. Because even though we've had teams like Chaos be within Europe for such a long time, and they still don't, they can't really pull in nearly as much viewership as we would kind of hope for a pro team to do, right? You have an org backing you, you've got fans, you just don't have nearly as much exposure. I'm wondering whether when we make this transition into the new league format, if we end up seeing something that is like a general viewership increase or a spike, or if we just see it like go up for when the season begins and then drop back down to like what's kind of, I guess, average levels. Because we will always have like that. We had the simultaneous broadcast of Latin America be in 2 different languages, because we'd have the English one on the main channel and then we would have the Brazilian one. The Brazilian one would always pull in so much more viewership just because they're speaking the language. And whereas on the main broadcast, everyone's just like, what's this? Like, there are more when does Bolo play jokes on Latin American PL streams than any other time during the course of a season, because it's almost like dead air. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't have a way to finish the point.
Sure.
Point taken.
I mean, let me take a look at this. Okay, so if I go to Twitch right now, thank God they have this new esports tab, which will make it a little easier.
Oh, you
right?
check
good.
Twitch? You check Twitch numbers?
Right now.
Oh, like viewership?
Latin American.
Right now.
Right now, Latin American Siege is having. It looks like women's league. Did you know there was a women's league?
Yeah, they have a women's league in Brazil. Yeah.
I didn't.
The only way I knew they had a women's league is because of that whole T1 lawsuit, and they said that they also put their women's. No, they put their women's CES team into the same house. Never mind, not the women. No.
Yeah.
I'm spitballing. Ignore what I just said.
I think I know of it because a lot of those females are girlfriends of Brazilian Pro League players.
Right.
So that's why I know of it, because I follow them on Twitter.
Okay,
I don't mean to question whether it's built that way, but I get it.
Like, they had like a whole LAN finals last season and stuff. I saw it.
Hey.
Yeah.
They do a lot of
Okay,
content around
so
it.
DreamHack Masters is happening right now, right? So if we look at this and how many DreamHack streams there are going on right now. All right. Let me just open this up. DreamHack CS.
Now, DreamHack is notorious for doing
a billion
other
languages,
language broadcasts as well. Yeah, they do them all the time. Question is that because Valve has the money that they want to throw at all this stuff? Or I guess I wish I understood a little bit more about how CS tournament organization worked, but they've got multi-languages.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
Portuguese, Spanish, Polish, DreamHack, Russian, right? And a lot of these guys, they aren't even necessarily like, they aren't even, and I guess that's something that's different about CS and Dota, which is you can actively go in and watch live matches.
Like in the game itself, like in the game client. Yeah. God, imagine if CH had a feature like that.
Like you could literally.
Oh, dude! Speaking of match replay, there's the whole scrim thing going on right now.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh god.
There's the whole now people will know what we're doing in scrims drama.
Yeah.
We're gonna look across the map, pause it at a specific moment, and then we're gonna look for everyone puts a Valcam spot anywhere on border. Like, well, not border Oregon. We're just gonna find where people mess with new maps and new stuff all the time, and nothing will be secret anymore.
Yeah. Nice. So what we're pushing for obviously is that you can, when you create a custom game, you can enable kill cam, bans, etc. If there's a way to enable, disable, like recording or saving of that set match to be disabled, or you can only spectate your individual player's point of view, because that way you can't achieve anything you wouldn't normally get with a YouTube stream, because most pro teams, they will stream their scrims on YouTube to their coaches so that you have the 5 point of view anyway, right?
Yeah,
right.
So you want to restrict it so you can't scrim someone, like we scrim Empire, and then we play them in Pro League like 2 months later. We go back and watch all our VODs against them, but not from our point of view, from their point of view,
exactly.
That's where it's broken. So we're hoping that they're going to restrict that. We're trusting them that they'll do it. So,
is that one? I know that for land builds, or something about land builds, I don't know too much, but I know that they have a double spectator system, or they have the ability for 2 observers to be within the same match.
They have 10.
They have 10.
They have 10?
On land, there's 1 spectator for each player plus the 2 casters, or 2 spectator casters.
I figured at that point it was just them like literally grabbing individual players' computers from like some software and just porting it over.
It's literally medics sitting there just snorting Adderall.
And medic says
there's
more than 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, to my knowledge that I see in the lobby, I see 12. I see, because there's probably more, but there's 1 for each player, and then there's a 2 main spectator thingamajigs.
Yeah. No, it's there's just a billion spectator spots basically, and then you can also capture the footage directly from the player's computer if you need to.
Yeah, that's what I figured they were doing.
Yeah, no, but it's...
the reason I bring it up more to be like, if you have to do the thing which you've done previously, which is get a clean feed to your coach, would it be? I'm hoping this might be a thing. Would it be better to have like 2 spectator slots, 1 for like 1 person from each that only observes like 1/2 of like an observer that only observes for 1 team? They can't observe for both of them at the same time. Like if you're doing a match replay system and you know that it's something that the competitive community has clamored for and also will still need some adjustment before it's like, ready for that kind of thing, they will be the people that use it probably more so than people who would use a match replay system for a highlight reel, for montages, for content creation, I feel.
There is a feature in Dota which is called Coach.
Oh.
There's just a straight up coach feature? Nice.
6 player, loads in, just watches everybody. Right?
Yeah.
You only get your team's feed, but basically you act as an observer.
Literally exactly that. Literally that for Siege. That way coaches aren't having to dive back through Twitch clean feeds if they don't have a YouTube VOD mirror at some point. Like that makes their life 10 times easier. I don't know if I just made Sua cream, but if I did, great. But the whole point is you want to make the process
Sua
easier
had
for
cream
them.
last night. No, he had the cream last night with with mushrooms and pork chops or something?
Yeah. Pork belly with some cream and Philadelphia. I don't know. Some good stuff.
Yeah. There would need to be some weird stuff you would have to do with it. But just the ability for a coach to sit there and live observe players in an environment. It doesn't even have to be specifically in custom games, right?
I was gonna say, because of Siege, you would have to just make it individual point of view, because how do you have fog of war from a top-down point of view in Siege, right? It's not like League or...
Well,
you
wouldn't...
Yeah.
No top-down, you'd only be able to do first-person view.
Yeah, you'd only be able to do first-person.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or you do the thing that Valorant does, which is you stop culling objects as you view, which would be hard to do.
I don't think you can do that in Siege.
No, I don't think you can do that in the engine either.
Design, etc. Like it's not even like it's just not possible. Like it's like Valorant, they detect cheat based off like people like looking at you through walls and shit. But like in Siege, the walls are ever changing, so you can't do that either.
So you can't do that. Yeah, but
yeah,
there are some kinks that would need to be worked out, but I think it would be for the health of the game. Just even if you could do it in ranked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine how much easier it would be to teach people how to fucking play Siege if you could just have their
It makes
perspectives.
for great content, honestly. It does. Like, I've done coaching before, both professionally as a pro league team in Australia back in the day, and one-on-one coaching. And it's like you have no tools to work with. If you're Reaper and you want to make a video on like the strategy does on YouTube, he has to do like a third-party like blueprint of the map, because you cannot physically go in, slap 10 reinforcements, slap 2 shields down. You gotta do a top view blueprint and
Yeah,
put
you've
in,
got to do like a weird Photoshop
icons.
or get 8 of your friends or something, right?
Exactly.
Animate everything back into a blueprint PNG and hope that it conveys your message, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Like, that's what we gotta work with. Because I would love to do like advanced strats, and I know like someone like Saronic, who's a content creator but also involved in pro play or pro league, he would love to do it, but we just don't have the tools to do it whatsoever.
It would make Super's OTF streams after North America be a lot more. Well, no, just after Pro League, like, be super exciting to watch, because he'll break everything down and tell you what's going on.
I mean,
I totally get it.
What's the thing we've been asking for years, and I don't know how feasible it would be, just because someone might be able to bring it into ranked, but unlimited reinforcements, unlimited ammo, unlimited grenades.
Yeah,
That would make it
C4s,
really easy
etc.
from a scrim perspective. That way, you're not having to restart a round to go back and try something new, right? You're just able to put one up, and then you can like restart the instance of the map or the site almost. So you're able to just wipe the slate clean, go back in, try it again, test things out, look for
Play
angles. And it
retakes,
doesn't
play
take forever.
2v2s, like play certain scenarios.
I mean, think about how easy it is to test grenades in CSGO when all you have to do is hit the tilde key and just say, give smoke.
Yeah.
Right?
In Siege,
It's more complicated than that, but...
Give Siege a cheat function.
In Siege, it's like our coach would be like, yo, do you guys know the border grenade for the Scala? And we're like, no, we don't, because it's terrible to fucking practice it. Then he says, go ahead and do it. You go ahead and do it. You miss the first nade. You miss the second nade. You're like, I'm just gonna quit the game. Fuck this.
Yeah,
like,
I just gotta
you
restart this whole fucking
spawn,
lobby now. Great,
drone
all right, I'm
phase,
done.
go in, rappel up,
Done.
throw 2 grenades. Like, it takes like 10 minutes to do 2 grenades, like 4 grenades, like 2 tosses times 2. And in CSGO, you can do that, or in Valorant for that matter, you can do it in literally 4 seconds. You just spam left click, you're just tossing this. You can like change, then you can track it. It's hard in Siege, man. And that's why we don't have a lot of pre-lined C4s, pre-lined like frag grenades. Because you can do a lot of crazy frag grenades in this game. Okay, there are Jaeger grenades, Womais, it's annoying to deal with. But in theory, if we had the tools to go into a custom game and just learn those tosses, there would be a lot of crazy stuff in Pro League that we don't see right now. That's for sure.
I mean, think about how much easier it would be to grenade people from below if you could just sit there and practice. Like, right, if I hurl this grenade at this specific pixel on this specific angle, I can hit that guy in that room.
I'd
But
be
you
able to
wouldn't
work
be
on
able to know
frag
that.
timing,
Yeah.
which is something I've never been able to get down. It's just like basic skills you can enhance by having multiple chances at it and not just 2 in a really weird spot, right?
And you wouldn't be able to know that unless you sat there and you mathed it out for 6 hours. But because you can't sit there and just throw grenades infinitely and just hit a button to reset the floor, you got to sit there, throw 2 grenades, go, all right, fucking jump off the building, kill yourself, go back to prep phase.
It's a hard reset. It takes a
spawn.
hot minute. Yep.
You got to get your friend to go back into the corner, and you got to sit there. You get 2 grenades. All right. So you get what? 2 grenades every minute? And that's it?
Yeah, literally. It's
this
tough.
is kind of a... Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. It's tough. That's it.
Yeah.
This is a dumb thought. This is actually a really stupid thought. Like most of them are. Just, this is par for the course of the content that we make. Just give me a second. There's an idea that if you are one of the people who spends all this time in Siege, either like as a coach, as a player, trying to figure things out, then it will automatically deter people from wanting to put in the same amount of effort to do it. If you give players / coaches and teams more tools or the ability to do it easier / faster to the point that they don't have to spend nearly as much time, scrubbing through clean feeds looking for stuff, grinding through scrims or custom games or anything just to try different strategies out over and over again, then to give people tools to do all that stuff easier will then, I guess, increase the number of people that you would have to play against that could try to mimic the level of play that you're at, in a sense. If everything is made easier, then more people will be inclined to give it a shot. They won't give up after they spend so much time working on something, and when they're not nearly as good as a pro level team or a T2 team or something, then they'll just be like, you know what, screw this, it's not worth it. I don't know how much truth there is behind that ideology, but there to the idea of you don't necessarily want to add more competition that you have to worry about because you want to be the best. You want to keep on proving that you are the team that can, adapt and excel at everything. Mm-hmm. But to give more people access to the kind of stuff that would infinitely, increase someone's effectiveness while mitigating the amount of time they'd have to spend to figure something out, from my perspective, that seems like something as nice as it would be for you guys as already established pros to have that kind of stuff. Watch a team come out of the blue with an advanced replay system, a playground mode, completely out of nowhere, even maybe from a sleeper region, a Pakistani team we've never heard of before. Somehow they got servers down there. All of a sudden, they just come in, take these tools, and stomp. And all of a sudden, Siege is theirs.
We to bring it back to Tekken, the reason that fighting games, a lot of fighting games are so accessible to a lot of different people is because you hit a button, you load into a custom map, and you can see frame data, hitboxes, input lag. You can switch characters on the fly. Like, literally, you can kick, pause, and you can see hitboxes, hurtboxes, everything.
Son,
fucking
wow.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right? Most fighting games are giant open books. You look at something like CS, you can hit a button, and you can see the fucking geometry and the precise angle of the floors of the map.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? You open Siege, you get 2 frag grenades a minute. Have fucking fun, kid. Right? Like,
that's literally what it is.
There is a massive skill wall in Siege. And, as great as it feels to climb and surmount that and be able to throw frag grenades at people from, God knows where and go like, yeah, I'll just jam that ADS, right?
No one's going to do it.
As great as that feels, how much greater would that feel if you didn't have to spend 300 hours doing that?
Yeah, no. That's the issue. I know for a fact that majority of pros, they just say, screw it. The other teams aren't bothering to do it. Why should we, right? Yeah. And it's just not worth your time. That you could practice a scrim. A scrim is typically between 2.5 to 4 hours, depending on like what rules you use and whatever. Or you can spend 4 hours learning maybe a single grenade toss, and you can't even do it 100% accurately or consistently, right? It's just not worth the effort. You might as well just scrim with your team and get 5 people on the server against other 5 people and just get that out of the game.
I mean, at a certain point, when you're at a LAN and you're installing CSGO to do aim training, your game has a problem.
There is this scenario now where most pros, not everyone, and most people, not everyone, they used to use House for T1 warm-up. It's a small map with a simple map design, and that's gone now. The new House doesn't serve the same purpose in my experience, and I generally don't know what to do for warm-up. I might just download aim labs on Steam because Siege doesn't give me the tools to warm up my wrist anymore. That sucks.
Yeah.
As a casual gold 1 plat 3 pleb, I don't notice too much of a difference, but I'm gonna defer.
That's why you're gold 1 plat 3, sir, because you gotta warm your wrist. You gotta get in
the
work.
Warm up.
You gotta get in that action, my man. You gotta.
You know how I warm up?
Sir.
I don't want to know.
An hour of Hearthstone. An hour of Hearthstone. And that's why I'm a gold 1 plat 3, all right?
That's what. That's
so many different ways.
You should see Fabian's warm. Fabian's warm up was like Kingdom Hearts Civilization 6. You'd be like, how do I overtake the world
Total
this time?
War Rome 2.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like, you get mentally warmed up, and then you sit there and you, like, attempt 1 flick shot, break your wrist, and go, I should probably be playing House.
That's why Fabian wasn't the main fragger, but the brains behind the operation, if anything. But like, yo, Kanto, run in that door and shoot the guy because I can't hit my shots. I haven't warmed up yet. You know whatever. But I've
played 6 hours of Civilization, so I'm prepared to tell you to go shoot that guy. I'm not prepared to go shoot that guy.
I have the confidence to lead the team, but I cannot go into battle first. I will bottom frag. That's all I can do.
It's in the bed, like, guys, run in, get it done. Run it down.
I believe in you. Hey guys, have fun. Yeah, just
that's how it is, man. So I agree. Like, the game is now 5 years old, soon TM, December 1st. That's the official release date. That's 5 years. It's been a beta for about 5 years, very soon at this point, at least for open beta, that is. So, and that's always been my complaint with the save Siege and whatnot, is that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we always said that the game has so much time to get features that we don't currently have because every other game has them. Now we're closing on the year 5 anniversary and we're still yet to have these features, and that's kind of not my concern, but it's like, do you guys think we're gonna go into a scenario where we will just learn to just suck it up and just accept that we don't have these things, or do we live in a world where we should expect to get them sometime in the future?
I mean, if you look at, and I don't mean to be, hyperbolic here, but literally every other esport. Like, I don't give a shit if it's fucking Farming Simulator. Farming Simulator has practice modes.
Oh God.
Okay?
We're getting beat by Farming Simulator. The Germans are on top of it.
Every other esport has this.
Yeah.
It's,
It's mandatory for a game, arguably.
It's hard to do. Don't get me wrong. And it requires probably an entire giant overhaul of the anti-cheat system, which probably should have been done a few years ago, but
We'll let bygones be bygones until they do something about it. Yeah.
But so this is sort of what happens when you build a game and don't expect it to become a tier 1 esport, which, I mean, these things happen, Do you think the developers of rocket-powered acrobatic battle cars really expected to one day create one of the largest esports in the world?
No, definitely not.
No, but, for those who don't know, rocket-powered acrobatic battle cars was a PS3 game developed by Psyonix, and Psyonix made a sequel to it called Rocket League. So,
no, I don't think that was in the back of their head. Absolutely
I don't think that was in. No, right?
I think the idea of even for Siege, a tactical shooter, we haven't had anything even remotely close to that. So here's a new idea for a game. Can we make an esport around it? Let's wing it and find out. And here we are 5 years later.
Yeah.
And somehow this guy's been through almost the entire thing.
You got a point down there.
Oh, I do. Sorry. Oh, yeah. This thing
on my screen.
On my screen is right here, but
that's Chowder. For me, that's Chowder, and that's so it's me, then you, then Chowder.
Weird.
I'm gonna
Discord is so whack.
Yeah, I'm down here, and then, but it looks different on the stream just because of the way it's formatted.
I've been there since the start, and it's been a wonderful ride. And I hope I can stay for many more years to come. But I also hope that the new generation of Siege players can get to love the game like I once did, because the current state and the lack of features that we see other games do have, it's not what we just want the game to have what other games have, basically.
Yeah.
So I hope we'll have that for new players.
Yeah.
Let's hope we can get out of the point where Siege becomes a minority esport. I don't want to think of it that way, but its current state, with as many people who are talking about all the things that we don't have yet and how easy it could be, it's kind of the way that we are at the moment, maybe within the FPS genre. So I gotta do a hard cut out at this point because there's a broadcast I gotta be on in a half hour. And all
because
the audio
Jacob is a little baby, and he's Jacob. Oh, look at me! My name is CaliberJacob, and I raise money for charity. On
my side, Discord cut out about 3 times while you were doing that. The audio version won't, but for me, all I heard was. Pengu, if you've got anything that you'd like to plug, any socials, anything that you'd like to draw attention to, is something we do for everyone at the end of an episode. If you got something, lay it on us.
All right, so there's this website called r6fix.com, and basically you can go there and you can report bugs and fix
That's the right
and glitches, and you will go there and help us make the game better, help Ubisoft make the game better, upvote other people's posts, make your own posts, create discussion, and most importantly, share the passion and love for the game that we all play. So r6fix.com, check it out.
Nothing else?
Also, play the test server, because that is where you'll find the new season, and you got to figure out if there are any bugs there and then report those bugs on said website. So play test server, play rank so we can all play rank together, because the rank queues are long, man. You don't want to wait long queues.
Bounce proximity mines off C4 so you can get under geometry, so they can stop doing that. Because Jesus, I'm sitting there. I'm in a server with all of the people who are testing that, like on Clubhouse.
Yeah.
And Coastline and Consulate, and they're just sitting there. They're like, they're pulling me into the voice channel, and they're like, "Hey, Matt, come take a look at what we did." And I just sit there, and they bounce a proximity mine off a C4. They bounce a C4 off that C4. They pick it up, and now there's a proximity mine and a C4 underneath white van on Consulate.
Yeah. I saw it on Twitter. I was like, what?
I mean, the art of bouncing C4s or stuff that's sticky off of other things isn't abnormal.
No, they've got it consistent. They've got it consistent.
Here, nope. How about we do this? How about we make it so that when they try to plant, just hit a button and they'll stop. Yep. You'll win the round easy. Like, that's it.
You can bounce smokes off it. You can bounce pretty much anything that's throwable. Vault cams. Doesn't matter. Just bank shit. And because you have 2 proximity mines, you can bounce a proximity mine off a proximity mine. You don't even need a C4. It's just...
God, everything's going to be broken.
Ah, it's going to be great. Welcome to the Sandwich Siege, where we're just planting Malusis on top of Jaeger ADSs, on top of Evil Eyes, on top of Frost Mats.
Okay, hold on. Before we go too far, I'm about to get too depressed. Pengu,
right.
hey, thank you for offering to spend a couple minutes with us after scrims and everything, dude. Really appreciate having you on.
Thank you very much for coming.
And thank you for having me. Thank you for reaching out. And maybe in the future, we'll see.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who knows?
Hit you up later.
Yeah.
All right.
Now we get to go back to this horrid thing. Yeah. Enjoy.
Have fun.